Oh my goodness sakes, I got the CLZ Shake. So welcome to episode 132 of the Campus Comics Cast. This is Scott Reed and I am joined by
Shaad Schubert.
And you notice that we are a man down. We had a little miscommunication in a recording schedule. So Shaad and I decided we're just going to, move along for one episode here, and then we'll get Atchison back on episode 133. So
the show must go on.
Exactly. So we need to get some content out there. So we thought we better go ahead and record something. So, all right. Well, we're going to start this episode. We got some news and rumors that are going around. We thought like it might not be a bad idea to talk about that. Then, of course, we're gonna go on. We've been hinting at a discussion about DC, speculation, what's going on with DC Comics and DC movies. So we're gonna spend a little time talking about that, and then we're going to go into Mind Management. We're going to talk about the first volume, which is issues 1 through 6. And then we'll, of course, wrap up the episode with that, oh my goodness sake, a CLZ Shake, about just point out some things in our collection. And I'll hope that I don't once again get a ROM or a Micronauts comic, because, again, that's most of my collection. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I guess the first thing we should talk about is the passing of Tim Sale. Tim Sale was obviously a well-known artist, probably best known for his work on, I guess the Color series from Marvel, and then of course Long Halloween and Dark Victory over at DC. And then of course we did not too terribly long ago, we talked about the Long Halloween on this podcast. That's been a story that's been fairly recently used in parts of it, and the Batman with I almost said Rowan. Robert Pattinson,
whoever,
that guy who sparkled in one of those movies and then turned into the Batman. Yeah, that guy. But Tim Sale, I think he was 66. Did I remember that correctly?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, which seems way young. And I kind of jokingly said, creators often pass in groups of 3. So this here in the last couple of months, we lost Perez, we lost Adams, and now we've lost Tim Sale. So unfortunately, that completed that 3. So maybe we'll have a little calm down on this, for a little while. But to me, what he's best known for is, of course, Long Halloween. What are your
his team up with Jeff Loeb is what he's. I haven't even read anything that wasn't attached to Jeff Loeb when it comes to Tim Sale. But I mean, as far as artwork goes, that's one of, if there's like people that stick out to me as primary artists, that's one of my, that's how art can look like that in comic book art. I'm not a big traditional art kind of for comic books. I like to go for something a little bit different. I love the Frank Miller artworks. I love the Tim Sale artworks, and so that really, from a young age, that was something that really stood out to me specifically with him.
Yeah, it had to be about Perfect Anatomy.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it made everything a lot more weird. It was very, Sam Keith kind of style a little bit even. But Long Halloween was my first entrance into that art, to his art. And then I think I skipped all over the place, kind of back and forth between the Marvel Color series and Dark Victory, and then When in Rome, their Catwoman series, and
I don't think I've read that yet. I probably need to read that one. So yeah.
The one that I haven't read yet, which I should have, is the Superman for All Seasons. That one is I think the only Marvel one, or Marvel, good God, DC one that I haven't read in that. But yeah, totally one of my favorite comic book artists.
Yeah, I think I've read all the Marvel Color. I mean, there was Daredevil Yellow, there was Spider-Man Blue, Captain America White, Hulk Green,
Gray.
I'm Gray, right? I'm sorry, Gray.
And that's it. Yep,
that's it. And I say that I can't swear that I've read Hulk Gray. I know I've read other ones, but
they did a Wolverine and Gambit series, but it's not part of the Color series. But I guess that was back in '95. It looks like I wasn't aware of that.
They did the Wolverine and Gambit
Wolverine
series?
and Gambit: Victims is what it's called.
Oh, okay. Because there's been two Wolverine Gambit series then.
Oh, okay.
Because I picture the other one in my mind, and it is absolutely not there's artwork. But I don't know, maybe it is. Hold on. That's not. I guess he maybe he changed up his style a little bit for this one, or no? Yeah, that's it. Holy smokes! I did not. I'm looking at this cover, and I had no idea that was Tim Sale. So
yeah.
Wow, I'll have to look into that because I have not read that either for sure. So because it's Wolverine and Gambit, and I'm just a big Gambit fan. So that is crazy. I had totally missed that. So anyway, rest in peace, Tim Sale. Yeah. All right, some other things. I just saw this today. This announcement came from Giant Freaking Robot of all places. But apparently, and I don't know if this is probably still in the rumor stage, but Ewan McGregor is going to be joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was not aware that he was apparently in the running to play Doctor Strange prior to Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
I would have preferred it.
I don't know. I'm relatively happy. I guess you have the same feelings about Benedict Cumberbatch as I do about Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, but anyway, it'll be interesting to see who he ends up playing. Of course, the big new groups of characters coming in are going to be Fantastic Four and X-Men.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who to pick for him to actually pick up and play.
Yeah, if they depending on how they age Fantastic Four, I could totally see him as a Doctor Doom. I think he could pull that off, but I was leaning more X-Men. Like, could he be even Professor X? Or I mean, that seems easy. Yeah, Magneto. I mean, he could even do Wolverine, but he's 51. So I mean, are you really kind of trading out someone who's in their 50 for someone's in their 50s? Like, it's not really not a good trade if you want some longevity, I don't think.
Yeah, I think though, I can't imagine. I don't picture him doing a particularly physical character, at least physical in appearance. Of course, we know that they'll buff him up, a little bit for those films if they are going to play a hero. But I just don't see Ewan McGregor being the type of actor that wants to go through that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he'll keep himself in reasonable shape, but I can't imagine a Chris Evans transformation.
Yes.
For him. So one of the sites speculated that he's going to be Mr. Fantastic, and I feel like we're probably locked into John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic.
I hope so. I hope so at this point.
So I like your idea of Dr. Doom. And that would give him the ability to come back later too, so have multiple appearances. So
yeah,
and the accent could potentially work with somebody who's European, So yeah, I'm okay with that. That's a good idea. They should do that. They should do Dr.
that
Doom.
one. Yeah, that.
From Heritage Auctions, the cover for issue number 1 of The Dark Knight Returns just sold for $2.4 million at Heritage. So that's a couple of bucks.
Yeah,
I did not buy it. Chad?
That wasn't me. I wasn't.
I got outbid. Yeah, I got outbid 2.3.
At one point in time, I was like, I mean, what was the grade on that? Was that like a 9.8?
This is original art. I'm sorry, this is original art, not.
It's not. I was like, that's a crazy amount for that copy.
Yeah,
right.
Because this is the original art. Sorry, this is the cover for Dark Knight number 1. Yeah.
Gotcha.
$2.4 million. I almost think that they thought this was going to sell for more, so this 2.4 million they were a little disappointed at.
Wow.
But it doesn't matter to me. That's still a ridiculous amount of money. And of course, Frank Miller, I'm sure, doesn't see any of that 2.4 million. Yeah, because I'm sure he probably sold that for a few $1,000s many years ago.
Yes.
And now he's kicking himself because I just sold for 2.4 mil.
That's right. Yeah. But it's a great cover. So I don't know if it's that great of a cover, but
right. Well, it's very iconic, those pieces of art are one of a kind.
Yes, they are.
So it does have that going for it, as opposed to, there being like several copies of Action Comics number 1 that are selling for that or even more. So but it doesn't have the age that Action Comics #1 has. But
Right.
but they are one of a kind. So
Mm-hmm.
this one's an interesting, and I've seen there's several sources on this, but apparently Wonder Man is going to get a Disney Plus series.
Okay.
Now, most of the time, whenever you hear people talking about Wonder Man, the actor that gets associated with Wonder Man is Nathan Fillion. They have not, in any shape, form, or fashion, announced that. I think the only thing they have announced is a director or writer for it. And I've seen this several places. I know I saw something on Key Collector about it where they said who was associated with it, and now I can't find that. There it is, Wonder Man. Destin Daniel Cretton, who was also on Shang-Chi to direct. So, yeah, Wonder Man series with the Shang-Chi director. So,
okay.
I'm
not
much
familiar with. No, not at all. What's the kind of story behind Wonder Man?
So he started back in Avengers issue number, oh gosh, I want to say he's in the single digits, maybe issue 9. I almost said 8, but that's Kang. But basically, he has this ionic power, like his eyes they glow red, not like Cyclops quite red, but he's basically a big bruiser. I mean, he's not Hulk level strength, but he's kind of on close up there, one of the higher end, stronger guys in the Marvel universe. His brainwave patterns in the comics are what were used for the Vision.
Oh, okay.
So there's this tie to the Vision, but basically what he kind of became was a superhero who wanted to be an actor.
Oh, okay.
So he kind of
there's
has
the
this,
shtick to make it a TV show pretty easily. I was like, well, wow, this doesn't sound like somebody who could warrant a Disney Plus show very easily, but that is probably enough to have somebody doing auditions trying to be an actor, make it in that as a superhero. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that will probably be where they go with that. And of course, his original costume was terrible. Ultimately, he kind of went
Aren't they all?
Yeah, well, no,
Most
they
of
aren't
them.
all terrible. It was basically just like this green sleeveless bodysuit with like a red W kind of across the chest and stuff like that. It was
Gotcha.
It was exceptionally bad.
Looks like it went to black and red at some point in time. Is the more primary. Black sleeveless jumpsuit with a red W now.
Oh yeah, he did that. But then, like for most of his time that I was reading him, again, he was in these blue pants with red shirts, and he had this belt that allowed him to fly. It had little jets on it, so he got flight. He was always piled up with the Beast whenever they were on the Avengers.
Okay.
But then one thing interesting they did with the character is later on in his, probably in the maybe early to late 2000s, he formed a group called the Revengers, and they basically were against the Avengers because they felt like the Avengers were the cause of a lot of the problems that the world was having. The reason why the Earth was constantly being attacked, so they kind of keep So anyway, that could be interesting. Obviously, it's going to be a long way off. They're just putting a director with it, and we still got She-Hulk, and we got to finish up Ms. Marvel, have She-Hulk to go. Seems like there's been some others announced as well. But we're probably talking a year to 2 years. Well, probably talking 2 years out at the minimum.
Oh, Secret Wars.
Oh, that's right. Because that's been delayed, I think, but maybe it's been given a new release date.
That's how I'm actually kind of scoping through.
But this is, Nathan Fillion is one of these actors who there's a lot of fans out there who are very vocal in support of him. They wanted him as Green Lantern, in DC. In fact, in one of the animated series, he got to voice Green Lantern. Probably just because of the outcry for that. And I can almost see it because, Nathan Fillion's one of those actors, he kind of plays the same character in everything he does.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I think that would fit pretty well for the Wonder Man character. So I would not be opposed to that. And especially if it's going to be more of the Disney Plus series as opposed to a cinematic.
Yeah.
Then that would make pretty good sense. So
it doesn't look like they've given us a new release date for Secret Invasion yet. It's 2023 of some sort. But we've got the Echo series, Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Armor Wars, Agatha. Spider-Man freshman year, the animated series, Marvel Zombies animated. So yeah, there's quite a few that's still in this. And I didn't realize that Blade was going to be a movie. I thought that was a series.
Yep. Okay. Blade was definitely going to be a movie. So.
Okay. Yeah, that seems like they announced that forever ago.
Well, yeah.
And we're still forever out.
Still a ways out on it, yeah. But they've started. I mean, he, had that voice thing at the end of
That's
Eternals.
True.
So, so they've kind of got the ball rolling with that for the MCU. And of course, the whole COVID thing kind of slowed everything down.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Titan Comics of all places is getting the license for Conan the Barbarian. Now, this is kind of weird to me. Because I thought that Conan the Barbarian was going public domain. So I feel like what we're going to get is we're going to have an official Conan the Barbarian, which is going to come from the Howard estate, right? And then anybody can do what they want with Conan, but the official one, I guess, is going to be at Titan Comics.
So does that mean that Marvel can technically keep producing Conan books? Didn't they have Conan books? And
well, they had them. They had the license, and then it went to Dark Horse, and they got the license back.
Yeah.
Apparently, the license is going to end pretty soon, and we talked about that in the last previews episode,
right?
But I thought it was because the character was going public domain, period. But I guess there's some little intricacies, around because we already have like the Chimerian. What's that? A series from? Oh, I don't remember who does that series, but it's Conan. They just can't put Conan on the cover.
Oh, I gotcha.
So, I think we may have a similar situation, but that's why, I thought I'd heard that, and I don't remember where I even heard this, that they're going to kill off Conan in Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
So primarily because I thought it was because he was going public domain, so they couldn't keep anybody else from using the character, but. Who knows? I don't know how that's all going to play out. But
and maybe maybe they don't want to. I would imagine a big company like Marvel probably wouldn't want to touch it if it's public domain, anyways, because it would create brand confusion if you had it over here while it was going on over there and everything. I would imagine.
Yeah, they would never. They'd never, want to create brand confusion at Marvel. Let's see. Oh, Umbrella Academy. They had what'd you say? The first 3 minutes?
It seemed like it had to just be the first 3 minutes of the show. They called it a sneak peek, but it was a lot more of. A peek is usually like 3 seconds, but that peek was a long peek.
I can't decide if it's I almost thought, I wonder if it's like the first 3 minutes of the first episode. It feels like there would need to be something else before that, but
what it leads up to is the ending of season 2 is the Umbrella Academy standing in that room looking up at the Sparrow Academy up on the second floor. And
that's right.
I'm sure that seems like it's just leading up to like, here's an introduction to all these characters that you saw right at the end of season 2. Okay. So that's why I was like, it kind of just feels like the opening scene to the new season.
I'd forgotten how season 2 ended. So how much do you enjoy the Umbrella Academy series?
I like it. I don't like it as much as the comics. I want the kids to be more kids than they are, but I realize that that's difficult to make kids do. Like, I don't know, it just seems like it's such an out of this world comic, and you can only make a human dude look like he's got ape arms so much. And that just, for me, oddly enough, the fact that he doesn't have ape arms in the truest sense that they are in the comics, or the ape body, even all of it, that takes me out of it because he doesn't look ridiculous. He just kind of looks kind of real. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. So, I really like the comic series a lot. And, I like the show. Okay. It's kind of like Lock and Key. I love the Lock and Key comic series. What Netflix has done is good. Right. And I feel like these things that they're doing with these kind of IDW Image properties, just the kind of indie books, are good introductions, and I hope that the people who like the show go and pick up the book because it's so much better in a way. And this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg for both of those. October Faction did the same thing. Seems like anytime they touch an indie book, it doesn't elevate it. It just kind of gives you an introductory to it.
October Faction. I'm not familiar with that one.
That's that was Ben Templesmith. A comic. I can't remember who put it out. Was it Image Book?
Probably, but I mean,
Possibly.
What's it been on TV? I mean,
It's on Netflix. It's another Netflix
Really?
show. Yeah.
Didn't even know.
It's like a family who are like werewolf vampire kind of hunters. And yeah, and they've got like a legacy of it through their family, and it's a decent show.
Okay.
But the comic's better.
For me, Umbrella Academy, the comic was just okay. The TV series was okay. As I really sit down and think about Umbrella Academy, to me, it's just Doom Patrol.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know what caused it to be so like has such a cult following, but I guess it was just hard. Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's the My Chemical Romance tie-in. I'm sure is what makes it big. Is there's a big following with the music, and so they follow him to the comics.
Okay, all right. So there you go. So yeah, I just I've been going through a collection that had a bunch of the Young Animal stuff in it, and his name popped up a lot on the Young Animal stuff. So, but it does. Here's what I can say about this 3-minute teaser.
Yeah,
I'm gonna watch the 3rd season.
Yeah, good.
So,
yeah, did the trick.
Yeah, so I watched the other 2. I'm gonna watch the 3rd one. So yeah. So definitely, I guess it did its job.
I think for this show there was. And maybe not a missed opportunity because they're doing fairly well, it seems like, but I would prefer to see, because in the comics we really didn't touch on them as the small children superheroes that much, but they alluded to it, and then they went through all of this just horrible stuff as kids with kind of an abusive adoptive father that put them into this scenario, and then as adults they kind of have to come together and kind of save the world, even though they have all this kind of anger towards each other in the situation. And I want to see an animated series with these kids kind of done in that same kind of artwork. And that would be more entertaining for me to see more of the stories that are untold than a retelling of the stories that we've already heard.
Well, I was just going to say, the part of the problem with the reason why they can't do the kids, because you get into the Stranger Things problem.
Oh, yeah.
Where after 4 seasons, these kids who are supposed to be junior high are clearly,
they're 25.
Yeah, they don't look like they're in junior high. But maybe that's the answer, is on a show like this, when you're doing the flashbacks and stuff, why not have that be animated and then do live action for the modern day stuff?
Absolutely.
Of course, then you can media. Yeah, of course, then you can end up with something like, what was that, Guardians of the Globe or whatever it was. That
was rough.
Yeah, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So. Okay, so there, if you're listening to Netflix, that's what you need to do. Animated for the kids stuff. That we don't have to worry about them aging up.
That's right.
So get on that. Well, Thor Love and Thunder had another 23-second teaser, and the first 12 seconds are awful, and the last 11 seconds are awesome. So basically, if you haven't seen the teaser yet, it's Mjolnir appearing on the screen, right, going towards Chris Hemsworth's hand, and he's basically talking to it, and all of a sudden, he's just being Chris Hemsworth, and then it changes direction and ends up in the hand of Natalie Portman, a very buff Natalie Portman, and then it gets to be really, really awesome. So, so all of my concerns about this movie are still in existence.
I've got my ticket already.
I haven't picked up. I'm still gonna go see it opening night. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm not, but I'm not super excited about it. But there was just recently this is from Yahoo News on their Insider, and they had an interview with Chris Hemsworth, and according to this interview, the actor said that the upcoming film Thor: Love and Thunder may be his last movie, and I assume it means last in the Marvel Cinematic. Now, that's not true, because I don't think it's going to be true, because I thought he was going to be in. I thought he had already shot some stuff for Guardians of the Galaxy, but maybe not. So
I don't know.
Yeah, but anyway, I am perfectly fine if this is his final Thor movie. After Ragnarok, I was definitely done with Chris Hemsworth. And you have those stories out there that he said that he said he was going to quit if they didn't let him do it more comedic. And instead of saying, there's the door, they said, okay, we'll do more comedic. And of course, they got Taika Waititi in.
He
Don't
just
get me
eye
started.
rolled for everybody who can't see
Yeah.
him.
So I'm just not. He's okay in other stuff, but man, just he doesn't go well with the Marvel stuff for me. So that's just me. What did you think of the 23-second teaser?
It's more of the same. I mean, I hope they don't put out any more footage because I kind of still want to watch a movie when it comes out.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what when it gets close to this, and I know everybody gets excited and they gotta sell this thing, and it's just like I would really like to be surprised by some things that happen in this movie, please.
Yeah. Well, they've done almost nothing with Gore the God Butcher being played by Christian Bale. There we go. I knew I'd come up with the name eventually. There hasn't been a whole lot, there. So at least we'll have, which I hope is going to be the main storyline. But yeah. So anyway, another 23-second trailer. If you haven't seen it, go check that out.
And I do hope that it is his last venture out as Thor, not because I don't like him, because I do enjoy this version of this character, but because I feel like we're at a point where we kind of need things to roll over and we need new blood in, and we need to, and hopefully Natalie Portman gets to stay as Thor. I don't want to see Natalie Portman for half of a movie as the new Thor Almighty, and then we switch back to Chris Hemsworth. I don't want that. I want some actual change. I want to see a different version, because we've seen it. This will be 4 movies and all of the Avengers movies and team ups in between. It has been a lot, and he's done it. And if he hasn't said what he needs to say by now, then he's never gonna say it. So it's time to switch over and let somebody else do something cool. And I feel like it is changing of the guard time for all of these characters. So let's do it and mean it.
And I'd just be happy to see him gone. All right. Well, I don't know. That was just some of the news items that had come across the wire. Now, something we've been hinting at, talking about a little bit, was some of the things that are going on at Warner Brothers. I guess it's actually officially Warner Brothers Discovery, I think is the official name of the company.
Think so, yeah.
There's been, I've just randomly had people come up to me at conventions and say, what's DC going to do when they stop printing DC comic books? And I'm like, they're not going to stop printing DC comics. But that being said, there have been some changes at Warner Brothers. And to me, this is the most substantial change that I could find, which kind of ties into some of the, I guess, what people are seeing with regards to the possibility of Warner Brothers either selling off DC. But this is in their movie studios. And this is in a article from The Wrap. And it is dated June 1st, so 20 days ago. Basically says that Warner Brothers is going to break their film line into 3 different groups. They're going to have the Warner New Line division, then they're going to have the DC division, and then they're going to have an animated unit, which it's kind of odd to me that they have the animated unit separate from the DC division. But I guess they have other animated properties besides DC properties.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
But then would the DC animated be in DC, or would it be in the animated unit? So I'm assuming everything DC will be in the DC division, including the animated stuff, and then anything else animated will be in the animated unit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I'm trying to figure out where people are getting, this idea that DC has announced that they're not going to be printing comics anymore, or Warner Brothers has said that DC is not going to be printing comics anymore. I can see what they're saying, where when they break their movie lines up into 3 different groups, then that gives them the ability to unload the animated or the DC unit.
Yeah.
But that's just the DC films. It's not the DC print, which could go with it fairly easily. And there's been a lot of shakeups. These 3 new groups are going to have 3 new heads. Only 2 of which I think have been announced at this point. I had a note about that. But yeah, so I don't know. What have you been seeing on this topic?
Same. It's just a lot of just reorganization. It looks like the game division is something that's been talked about, as well as like, what is the history of the Warner Brothers game division, and do they split that off? To me, that seems like something that they could easily pawn off on another company to take care of. Because I mean, I don't think that I don't know how much Warner Brothers games themselves actually do, because I know it seems like the last couple of games that have come out are them in like paired up with another team, another game development team. So they're funding, I guess, and maybe that's the problem, is they're funding it, and they don't want to fund it anymore. They want somebody else to do all of it, and they just let me sell you the rights to the character.
Let me license it to you and
yeah,
make our money from licensing. So yeah.
But yeah, on the comic side, I agree. I haven't seen much, and it feels like it would be difficult and unadvisable to kind of chop up things and just kind of move them out and about. I feel like they have a good, steady income with the DC Infinite Universe digital kind of comics, and they probably don't want to mess with something like that, because it's kind of a sit and earn kind of thing at this point. Is they load out new stuff. One thing I don't know why they don't do is there's not a lot of Vertigo titles on there, and they've seemed to work on like kind of moving all the pieces together on missing issues of the main comics and making sure they've got the full runs of Detective and Flash and everything else, but they're not really, it didn't seem like they're ready to really push out and go look at all this stuff. Heck, they only have the first volume of Sandman on there, and Sandman comes out in August. Why don't you have the entire run of that and the Dreaming series and all of the new Sandman universe books that have come out?
Well, and those have come out recently, so they should be in that 6 month, after their release, they should be there on.
The only thing they have on there is the Waking Hours, the 12 issue that they just wrapped up last year. That's it of that, and it's so bizarre to me because it's all digitized at this point. I get why, I guess all of it is. I mean, you can go to Comixology or Amazon.com now or whatever and buy the full run of Sandman. Why can't I read it? So, I think there's missed opportunity to get more subscribers there and earn more. But, I think about when it comes to the comic side of things, are we going to see more collections? Are we going to see more of reprints and stuff like that, and less new content going forward? We've seen the catalog seems to get a little slimmer and a little slimmer ever the DC Connect does. And do we see them? Do they do what Marvel does with Star Wars, and they take a whole section of it and license it out to IDW or to Dark Horse or whoever, and let them take over the kid-friendly line of it, and see that way they're not holding on to that and kind of can move it around. I don't know.
Yeah, I just, my big thing is, okay, so in the next couple of years, movies that we know that are coming out from Warner Brothers DC, Aquaman 2. We know we're going to get another The Batman. Flash will eventually, which we can talk a little bit more about that. Flash will eventually be seen on the big screen. We're getting a Joker sequel. All four of those are probably billion-dollar movies.
Yes. Yeah.
How many companies that have pretty much guaranteed billion-dollar movies say, yeah, we're just going to sell off this division? Because I can't imagine that anybody who wants to buy DC Comics would want to be told, oh, but by the way, we get to make the movies for your comics, right? So I think anybody who would want to get it would want to have the rights for the comics and the films and the animated stuff, which to me makes DC Comics who wants to buy just the comic production part of it?
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't see that. I just don't see that happening. Yeah. And of course, Warner Brothers with HBO Max, they need all this stuff to fill their catalog to keep people subscribing to HBO Max. Now, when I signed up for HBO Max, I literally intended to, a day after I watched Dune, cancel my subscription. I mean, I was okay. I wanted, because I wasn't for sure I was going to get to see Dune and Matrix and something else in theater. It's like, okay, so I'm going to go make sure I get to see Dune, get to see Matrix, watch those the day they come out, and then cancel. But there has been enough stuff in the HBO Max catalog that I'm still subscribing to it and finding stuff to watch all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So, and as long as they have access to the DC product, then there will continue to be stuff that I'm going to want to see. So I just don't see them giving up that. And if they stop printing the comics, then eventually, their things start to fall into public domain
Mm-hmm.
and abandonment, and all of a sudden, anybody can start using Batman. It's and like Wonder Woman is another example of that.
Yeah.
My understanding that as soon as they stop having Wonder Woman appear in a monthly book, the rights revert, for that character.
Gotcha.
So who knows? Maybe, and I guess we should talk about this just a little bit. I guess there's, a lot of bad press right now for some of the DC films because of Ezra Miller and Amber Heard. There were rumors that they were going to remove all of Amber Heard's scenes from Aquaman 2. I think she's made a statement that that's not true. Of course, Ezra Miller has been in constant trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, they are a problem.
Yeah. And it's basically been hinted at online that they'll still release this film, but Ezra Miller will not be the Flash after this film comes out.
I would hope that's the case. Yeah, I had heard somebody was like, well, what's the trouble with just releasing the Flash on HBO Max, and will it perform better as kind of in the same vein as the Snyder cut of Justice League than it would if it was in theaters? Yeah. Because how well is it really going to do? And I get, in the same way though, is everybody has a lot of talk about how horrible this person might be or this person might be, but you get a Flash movie and that you're going to be getting all of these
Michael Keaton Batman.
Yes. I'm going to pay the ticket. I'm sorry. I don't mean to, I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to go see that movie.
I personally try to separate a person, what they put in a comic or put in a film, from the individual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not going to rush out and buy any Ezra Miller merchandise.
Right.
But am I going to go see The Flash when it comes out? Absolutely.
Yeah. Because whether Ezra Miller was in the movie or not, I was going to go see the movie. So it's not, I'm not going to see it because of that actor.
I'm not going to boycott Aquaman 2 because of Amber Heard.
You might because of Jason Momoa.
Because I just don't care for Jason Momoa as Aquaman. But no, I'm going to go see Aquaman 2 when it comes out because, even though I feel like we've got a glut of these movies, this is still the stuff that I want to see in the theater.
Yeah.
And I would love to have, at least 6 big comic book movies a year, going every other month to go see a movie theater. That's a good ratio for me. So
absolutely.
So I like, and we're not quite to that level, but I'm 4 or 5 movies a year. Great. I continue to support that as long as that can happen. So
absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. They've got plenty of good things coming down, even if they've got some wild cards coming down. We have the announcement of Batman 2, not the Joker 2 is what I meant to say. The Joker 2 announcement, and whether or not
Lady Gaga as Harley
Quinn, yeah. Which I could totally see with the Walking Phoenix Joker. Like I could see those two playing well together, and her playing the version of Harley Quinn in the same world that he plays that version of Joker. And yeah, I could see you're doing the voice really well and kind of playing that. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And this is kind of a tangent, not really what we're talking about with DC's, future, but the DC movies for me they are more, what is it? It's the difference between a film and a movie, right? And it's like most of the DC things have been films, whereas most of the Marvel stuff has just been movies.
Yeah,
So I mean, obviously, the Batman. We talked about when we did our review of the Batman. The Batman was not written for you and I; it was written for the Oscars. Whereas obviously, Endgame, that was to raise money. So Warner Bros is kind of like they're kicking themselves or shooting themselves in the foot by not making movies as opposed to making films sometimes.
Well, or at least balance, or stop trying to make movies, because I think that's where they get into is like they've been stumbling for 20 years on how to make a connected universe. And those aren't the movies that do well for them. The movies that do well for them are the standalone weird artsy movies like every time. I mean, I guess Wonder Woman could have been its own thing and not been connected to anything and would have been a great movie by itself.
Well, it was, as Matt Martin likes to say whenever he's on the podcast, Wonder Woman was 2/3 of a good movie.
Well, that's
2/3 of a great movie. Yeah.
They don't know how to end movies. That's they're big budget movies. They don't know how to end them, it seems like.
But it was like the first time the first time I watched the Batman, I was like, Second time I watched it, I can watch this over and over and over again. Man of Steel, I can watch. If it's on TV, I have a hard time changing the channel.
Really? Yeah.
And a lot of people, I guess it's just not what they want, from their Superman, so.
Well, and even Justice League is watchable. I'm not going to sit down and watch it, but if it's on, no, you're wrong. But at the end of it, once it's all said and done, like if they're on, I'll go, oh, that movie's not that bad. And they're not horrible, but they're not rewatchable and like I'm going to put this in and I'm going to just like dig into it hardcore kind of a thing. And those dark movies, I haven't rewatched The Joker, not because it wasn't a good movie, but because it's like I can't emotionally handle watching that movie more than once.
Yeah. It's kind of like after I left The Joker, it's kind of like after I left Platoon. Whenever I saw that, it's just like that was good, but man,
gotta worry about my mental well-being.
Yeah, I don't. That's not something I ever want to see again. And that's the thing that has me concerned about the second Joker movie. It's like, man, do I really want to do that?
It's a musical, though, evidently.
That doesn't help any. But can Joaquin? Oh, I guess he was in a band, didn't he?
Well, he did Walk the Line, that Johnny Cash movie.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. So, anyway. But going back to Justice League, I won't. If I want to watch Justice League again, I'm going to the Snyder Cut. Yeah, I'm not watching, the Justice League that was released in films or in theaters.
That's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah, it's dead to me.
I don't. I wish that it didn't exist.
There you go. So I don't see DC Comics going anyplace.
No, I if anything, they'll pull back. I'd said before we start recording, they might do some Walmart 100-page giant type scenarios, not necessarily that exact same thing, but how do we take stuff that we've already done and put it in a format where people will buy it again, or new people will buy it, to try to see if they can. They're trying to be inventive with the market. It's just like, what do you do with 80 years worth of material, and surely we can sell this again somehow and make this, and I mean obviously digital is the way of the future with your kind of fly by night collector. If I can pay $8 for a month of something and read an entire run if I want to and then stop, that's what they need to invest in while they're doing all this, is get Vertigo on there, dang it.
Yeah, no kidding. So, all right, I'm looking at my notes here. I think I said everything that I wanted to say about DC. Yeah. Anything else you want to add about DC? So
no, I think that covers it all.
Okay, all right. Well, next up we got Mind Management. Mind Management, written by and drawn by Matt Kindt. He has been very prolific in the industry here of late. Probably at this point, best known for Berserker, his collaboration with Keanu Reeves, but and obviously I think he's doing most of the heavy lifting and the writing for that story. But he also has his own imprint now at Dark Horse with Flux House. I got to be careful whenever I say that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I forgot about Flux House, which makes sense now that I
have read Mind Management.
I've read Mind Management to know what a Flux House is. Which they don't bring it up in volume 1, do they?
No.
But it's in issue 0, which I happened to read just because I had it. And they talk about Flux House in like a third of the issue 0.
Now, so Mind Management 1 through 6. Now, I read this on Comixology. I read the trade version. But then, so I usually read the stuff on my iPad, and my son's borrowing the iPad, so I had to put it on my phone. When I just tapped Mind Management 1. Well, I got the single issue as opposed to the entire volume. Well, no, it was cool because on the single issue, I did not know this, on the inside front cover, the
cover.
inside back cover, there's another story.
I was going to ask you if they reprinted that in the collection at all.
And it is not in the collection. No,
Huh.
it just goes straight to the main page. So those are extra stories about the history of mind management that are not in the trade, which is crazy. Now, the trade has like the -1 and -2 issues in it.
Okay.
But it does not have.
Those are from issue 0. That's what 0. So that makes sense.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So, and I'm starting to think now. Looking at, I need to get back and look at the cover for issue 1. Did he? If he did different covers for? No, they're the same. Okay. So, we got to talk about the covers.
Yes.
Because okay, so if you just glance at this first cover, so you see Maru, right? And her brain is exposed. But then when you actually look at her brain, it's actually all these images of people fighting each other, just colored pink.
Yeah.
So it's just like there is so much detail in this book, and all of the covers and the pages. If the borders of every single page have the text to the mind management field guide, so you have to zoom in and turn your book sideways and rotate it around. And I tried to read all that, but it got a little tough doing this. Is one thing that makes it tough digital. It's not easy to read all that digitally.
It's not turn friendly.
It's not. But there is so much detail put into this story. It is just absolutely incredible.
It reminds me of like Hickman style detail and the world that you build around it and all of the little things that are just, you don't have to read it, but you could read this and you could understand it at a different level of it. And
then you can read it again and pick up all these things that you miss, and you can read it again and find more things that you miss or little details. I don't know. One of the things we'll talk about in issue 1, I don't know how many times I read it before I realized that one of the characters, Henry Lime, was on that flight, and he's just drawn there in one of the seats. He's there, obviously, but you don't realize that unless you have a really, really good memory or you read it a second time.
Well, and the only reason, what's funny is the only reason I recognized him in my first reading through is because I had seen the covers of all of the issues. And he's a cover character on one of issue 3 or 4 or something, issue 5. And so I was like, I know that face. I didn't know who he was necessarily at that point, but I knew that it was important.
Now, probably should say that this book is all watercolored.
I love until I read this, I was like, oh, that's the thing. That's why I like a lot of Jeff Lemire's stuff. That's why I love the watercolor take on it. It's awesome.
I think it is amazing as well, but that does make it the artwork not for everybody, right? Yeah. But if you don't like this artwork, I feel like you're just missing out. It's like it's more about conveying emotion and the coloring and the storytelling as opposed to having perfect anatomy.
Yes. Yeah.
But we'll talk about some of the other color covers as we get to them. I think is one thing that I want to do. But anything you want to add before we kind of jump into issue 1?
Nope. Just as I'm thumbing through the first pages again, I'm like, oh, I need to reread this because now the first 3 pages make even more sense than they did originally.
Right. Yeah. I tell you, and I've read this 3 times now at least. And every time there's stuff that either I guess I remember that I had forgotten or that I pick up each time that I read it. Spend a little bit more time looking at some of the image and seeing some of the stuff that's going on. It's just amazing. So
yeah.
So anyway, we don't know this at the time, but we start in Zanzibar, right? Which is this, I don't think there's a real Zanzibar. Is there a real Zanzibar?
I thought Zanzibar was a restaurant.
Okay, but anyway, we start in Zanzibar, and you have several of these scenes where it starts pretty normal. You got a couple, looks like they're about ready to kiss, and all of a sudden they're strangling each other, right? And then you have this riot breaks out in the town, lots of, crazy deaths, and you don't know a whole lot about what's going on. Well, then we flash back 2 years ago. Now, they don't say this in the beginning, but this Zanzibar incident was not present day or not 2 years ago. Okay. That's one of the things that you don't pick up on initially. So to this flight 815, where we're suddenly in the flight and we're realizing that everybody on this flight has completely lost their memory, including important life skills like how to fly the plane. It includes the pilot.
Yes.
All right. Now we mentioned this before. We do see this bearded man in sunglasses sitting in one of the seats. All right. We'll find out later that is Henry Lime, who will become important to the story, as you mentioned. He's on the cover of one of the later issues. Then we go back to the present day, and here's where we kind of meet our main character, Maru.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And she is a writer, and she's apparently in a bit of a writing slump. It's been a couple of years since her last, big novel. She's kind of a unsolved crime writer. So she sees on television the report about Flight 815. It's the 2-year anniversary. So she calls her publisher, and we get this idea from the publisher that she's heard this pitch before about this book that Maru wants to do. But she's fine. Okay, Maru, run with it. We know Maru's desperate for money because, her water's turned off. She's got all these, past due notices and all that fun stuff. So anyway, so she kicks it in gear, starts going around to various towns, interviewing the people who were on Flight 815. I guess we should mention that there were 121 people on the flight. Only one person was unaffected, which was a young child. And then, of course, the missing passenger, right? So
yes.
we have another passenger that's unaccounted for. All right. So there's, of course, all kinds of conspiracy theories about what went on with Flight 815. But anyway, as the story refers to them, she keeps finding these breadcrumbs that are ultimately pointing to her to someplace. And she finally, through the course of the first issue, gets a name. And the name that she gets is Henry Lime. Well, during her investigation, we see that she's being followed by a couple of agents. All right. And those agents are also being followed by a couple of other individuals. And those individuals are referred to as immortals because they can, for the most part, survive any trauma that their body might receive. So one of them gets shot in the stomach. We see that wound heal very rapidly. So the one of the two agents is killed by one of the immortals. All right. Basically, Maru falls in their lead. She goes down to Mexico. These just weird occurrences of things that happen that seem to be related to Flight 815. This one involves some pottery on a bunch of pots that she was able to then track again to Henry Lime. Well, Bill Falls is the name of the surviving agent, catches up to her in Mexico, basically says, "Hey, I'm from the CIA. You're in danger. We got to get out of here." So basically we lead into this, the start of a chase. All right. Is what wraps up issue 1. The end of issue 1, I didn't write anything about these, but the end of each issue has a couple of pages where you're introduced to another character who at some point was part of mind management. And there really isn't a whole lot of discussion about mind management in the first issue as an organization, but mind management is this organization. It's been around since the First World War that basically is trying to manipulate events. And then it was allegedly disbanded several years prior to the present day. So
it's described as a premier psychic espionage organization.
There you go.
And Zanzibar is a city in an island called Unguja, which is Unguja, and that is part of the Tanzania country. The country.
Okay, so it is a legitimate country. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anything you want to add about issue 1?
No, I think that covers it. I mean, it definitely it's a good first issue that pulls you into a lot of action, a lot of questions that get thrown out there that are immediately not answered whatsoever. And more evidently if you read it again. So
yeah, and more you read it the third time. So all right, cover to issue 2. You've got this Immortals, one of the people who is following Maru and Bill. All right, and it looks like he's just a guy with a scarred face. But then if you look real close at the stitching on his scars, there's like one of them says hate, and
Oh,
one of them says revenge, and one of them says
murder, kill,
yeah,
spite.
power. So yeah, it has all these words are
That's
stitched
cool.
into these, yeah, into his scars, which is just, kind of crazy. So yeah, again, it's just these little teeny tiny details
Hmm.
that he puts into, even the covers. So um all right, so issue 2, Bill and Maru. My notes on subsequent issues are not anywhere near as long as the first issue. So Bill and Maru basically are able to escape the Immortals. Now this is going to be a constant theme as we work through the story because they're going to be dealing with the Immortals several times. So after Mexico, they basically find themselves in Zanzibar, if I remember, and Maru and Bill get separated. Maru, following the lead, finds that image on from the pottery in Mexico on a souvenir shop sign. She goes in and meets Perrier or Perrier, I'm not for sure, who is basically typing all the things that are happening. Um, and after she finishes typing, for some reason, she decides that she needs to kill herself. So she jumps off the ledge. All right, but this does give Maru a clue, talking about going to talk to the dolphins. Bill catches back up to Maru. Then, of course, the Immortals catch back up to Bill and Maru. And once again, they are forced to flee from the Immortals and manage to escape. Um, the Immortals find the same clue that Maru had found about talking to the dolphins. So the Immortals know where to go, in addition to Bill and Maru knowing where to go. Now, there are these two little pages here of this guy smoking a cigarette,
Hmm.
standing, kind of watching what's going on. And they don't go into a whole lot of detail, but if you were paying attention to the previous issue, the story at the end was for a guy called the Futurist, and this is the Futurist. So he was introduced to us in the previous episode, or I keep saying episode, the previous issue, but now he's here in issue 2 of Mind Management. And then the last couple of pages gives us the story of Perrier and her sister, who had this ability for writing and art, and the Mind Management was able to use their abilities for their purposes, whatever those may or may not be at the time. So, anything to add on the second issue?
I don't think so. I love the agents that are kind of being dropped in, like the Perrier,
Hmm.
the Futurist, and just how we're slowly building something. It doesn't feel rushed. The
Hmm.
pacing is just really well done in the story, and issue 2 being as fast paced as everything's moving, and the action that you feel. And I think the watercolor definitely plays into just the motion, the movement through everything. But we've got a roster of characters
Yeah.
already, and we're just through issue 2. It's like, okay, but they all seem pretty manageable.
Hmm.
That you to know who is who.
Yeah, you definitely, a lot of stories like people will write, modern writing is for like the six issue story arc. And it's
Hmm.
like, okay, what are we going to do now? This definitely feels like there was a long term plan for
Yeah.
this story. It's like, okay, we can tell a story in 6 issues, but there is enough that we can take into the next, story arc and not just, oh, we're starting at scratch with a new story for the second
Absolutely.
volume. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is getting done with the sixth issue. I was like, okay, how many more issues of this is there? Like, I was ready to go because it's good.
Cover to issue 3. All right, so it's Maru, okay, but for her nose, if you look in real close, it's this guy bent over, right, and there's blood, coming down, which is
Hmm.
forming her lips, and then her hair is actually a couple of dragons in fire. So I guess we should
Hmm.
mention Maru's a redhead. You know, don't know how important that is to the story, but but yeah, so we have Maru as a redhead, and again, it's just like just so much creativity in the art. And if you just glance at that,
Yes.
it's just a person drawn
Mhm.
oddly. But then when you actually stop and look at it, there's like all this extra imagery inside of that cover art.
Mhm.
All right, so Bill and Maru end up in China. Once again, they have another confrontation. This is so that they can talk to the dolphins, right?
Hmm.
After another confrontation with the Immortals, Bill and Maru basically get separated. And after that, during the course of that separation, Maru is able to actually track down Henry Lime, and the issue ends with her meeting Henry Lime for the quote unquote first time.
Yes.
And they're kind of sitting in a boat having a conversation. Now, didn't have this in my notes, but as I was flipping through the pages, I guess this is probably worth mentioning. But during the course of her trying to find Henry Lime, she runs into this man, and when this man sees her, he doesn't see her as just this redheaded female, but sees her as this basically redheaded, samurai warrior.
Yeah, like a warrior goddess almost of some
Yeah.
sort. Yeah.
So he basically has visions of her, and of course he has visions of the Immortals when they show up, basically as demons. So there's again leads to some interesting imagery that comes from this book.
Yeah.
And then we get the ad man as the 2-page mind management guy at the end of the issue.
whose role it seems is to cover up in the media any news that could have been out about something that mind management's going to cover up.
Yeah, and we'll learn later, right, that he was involved in helping everybody forget about Zanzibar, the event that happened previously. So yeah.
Yep. On the when they visit the dolphin, the dolphin has this thing at the bottom of the pool that seems to be just a set of a keyboard or a set of the alphabet. Is it just a painting on the bottom of the pool, or is that an actual like touchpad? Do you think that I was trying to get a read on that, but it didn't seem. It looks like they're just paying attention to the fact that it's just pointing with his nose to.
I think that's what it is. He's just pointing with his nose. Is how I didn't even think about there being something more to it, because they give him the fish, he dives down in the pool. Next thing he's at the letters and touching the letters. I'd say it's just at the bottom of the pool.
I wonder if that's a real thing. I wonder if they the dolphins are smart. Like, do they spell stuff?
I don't know. I mean, we know that certain, what is it? Is it chimpanzees that can do sign language?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So maybe, I don't know. I mean, how else would a dolphin be able to communicate? Obviously, they're not going to sign. So
that's true. Yeah, it's a good point.
I don't know.
Maybe if they want to fish, they go to like the F or something like that. Maybe they don't spell out whole words, but they know what gets them.
Or at least touch a picture of a fish. Something like that line. So yeah.
Speaking of dolphins,
yeah,
that's the cover of issue 4.
Yeah, which, if you look closely, at the very bottom, in kind of like the waves, it says "Help me." Now, I don't know what the dolphins needed help for, but again, it's just got a little something extra kind of hidden in the artwork here. So, all right, so Henry Lime here in issue 4 basically recounts to Maru the history of mind management. So here is where if you haven't been reading the interior pages about mind management, you really don't know a whole lot about the organization. They've got some spies and agents that have some special powers. Beyond that, that's kind of, and they, impact world events, but that's kind of all you know about them. So Henry Lime basically recounts to Maru the whole history, their training procedures, some of the ways that they've impacted the world. Basically explains that his power, Henry Lime's power, is the ability to make those around him do what it is that he wants them to do. Which unfortunately for Henry Lime leads to a problem with his relationship with his wife, because he doesn't know if his wife's there because she actually loves him, or if it's because he wants her to love him.
Yeah.
But as they're having this conversation, we see that once again the Immortals have caught back up with Maru, who is still separated from Bill, right? He was kind of injured, not dead though. We do know that he's going to be alive later on. So, but But the Immortals are back in the picture here at the end of issue 5. Then we had this case file about the Animal Kid. I'm trying to think if I remember. I guess this has something to do with the dolphins, maybe the dolphin training.
Oh, it could be, yeah.
Yeah, because they kind of show the dolphin here in that story.
And then the letters, and yeah.
I don't remember anything else about the Animal Kid in any of the other parts of Mind Management that I've read. So
okay.
I don't know about that character. I don't remember that character coming back into play, but we get a little history there. So issue 5, once again, here's that cover you were talking about with Henry Lime on the cover, but you go into his reflection on his glasses, right? And you
see the massacre in Zanzibar.
Yeah, through the reflection in his glasses. So once again, just a little something extra kind of tucked away, in the art that Matt Kindt is giving us. So, and I guess I think we mentioned this, but Matt Kindt wrote and so we'll say painted this story. So Henry Lime has a breakdown basically because of those issues that he was having with regards to his wife and whether or not the relationship was real. And that because, basically he strikes his wife to basically see if she'll be mad at him, or so if it's him that's having the influence over her, or if she actually cares. But that results in him kind of losing control and the massacre at Zanzibar occurring. And what's bad is during the course of this massacre, his wife and child are actually killed. But during that, he is kind of wandering around, hears somebody crying out, finds this redheaded child, who of course is Maru, which is where you finally realize, Zanzibar occurred way back in history, right? You really don't know that until this point because Maru's obviously grown at this point, and he's carrying her out as a child. So now the Immortals, who were on the banks of the shore where Maru and Henry Lime were talking, are now up on the boat, and a fight ensues. And Maru is not for sure if she wants to attack the Immortals or attack Henry Lime because of the story that he just told. So here we get the last couple pages. We get the case file for the Archivist. All right.
The Archivist is pretty cool. They're monks essentially that just keep track of the non-biased history of the world. I'd like to read that at some point because I feel like some things I know aren't the things I know.
No, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I think one of the and I say cool, but I don't mean cool because it's horrible. But the interaction between Henry and his wife, when he's trying to figure out whether she's under his control or not, and she's like, "Did you not realize that they would have picked me because I'm the only one who's resistant to your powers?" And completely blew up in his face that his wife really was with him because she loved him, and she only was able to be with him because she couldn't be under his spell.
Yeah, and they do go through, like in that issue, in the previous issue, their entire, like we'll just say their entire courtship. It is covered. It's not just glossed over.
Right.
You see that relationship build from way back to where it is now.
She's one of his teachers, wasn't she?
Yes. So, but at least, I'm pretty sure. Yes.
Yeah.
I do like I just find this funny. So, they at Mind Management, they're taught all these, not just their bane power, but all these other abilities.
Yes.
So she writes a message to him on her stomach under her clothes, and she goes and visits him on a regular basis, and it takes him a long time to actually be able to read the message. So that's how they meet and spend some time together.
And he says something about, like, how long have you been doing that? And she goes, for a long time, and it's been uncomfortable because there's been a lot of students that have read
it. Yeah. So apparently on the X-ray vision, he was not quick on the uptake.
Yes, there were a couple of things. That immortality thing was what it seemed like almost killed him.
Yeah, and that there was a lot of people that, as you read through the story, it's like they tried when you get trained by mind management, you're trained in all areas. And
yeah,
when people are like, nope, this isn't for me. All right. So last issue of Volume 1, Issue 6. Now this cover is not quite as crazy as some of the other covers, but it's still really, really good. We got Maru here on the cover. The art style is a little different. You know, now that I look at it, I'm not 100% convinced that that is Matt Kindt.
It says cover by.
Okay, all right, well then good.
Yeah.
Now, but when you zoom in on her eyeball,
Kind of dragony.
Yeah, it's like I guess that's what it has to be. I'm trying to decide what else it could possibly be.
Marbles.
Yeah,
it just looks like an old marble that I used to play with.
Yeah, and then of course the little flowers that are floating over her head, they have little skulls inside of the inside of the flowers. So anyway, there's more to the art than it appears. So all right, so Maru decides to shoot the immortal. The immortal takes a headshot. Which we'll learn later is not enough to kill one of the immortals. Thus, the name Immortal has a good reason. Henry, she gets knocked out of the boat. Maru gets knocked out of the boat, but Henry Lime is able to use his power on the immortals and basically get them to stand still. They fall back into the water we would think to drown, but again, they're not called immortals for no reason at all. So Henry Lime is then able to finish his story and recounting of everything that happened through what mind management is, how they affected Zanzibar, how basically all the agents kind of went back into their secret life. We see the futurist, again here in issue 6. Henry Lime talks about, the flight 815. He had a breakdown in Mexico, which is where all the pottery was, right? So Maru, being her thing, being that she's a journalist, writer, she is committed to telling this story. So as she is leaving, she leaves Henry Lime behind, sees Bill, says he'll be back for her or for him. All right, makes some preparations, mails some of the information back, but then whenever she gets home, she goes to sleep and then wakes up and it's like she's forgotten everything. Calls her publisher again. Hey, I got an idea for a story, because she has forgotten all the things that she learned, which to me, there's this implication that this has happened more than one time. This is not the first time that this has occurred, that she has gone through this process, and it's just basically Henry Lime trying to unburden himself.
She says, the publisher says at one point, you've been chasing these stories for the last 2 years. You disappear and you always come back with nothing.
So we see again the futurist, who is outside of Maru's home, and he is picking up the mail that she had mailed to herself that had the story about mind management. And then of course it ends with the immortals basically growing gills. Because it talks about them evolving, so they grow gills so that they can breathe underwater and leave the water, and that's the end of issue 6. We do have the last little story here called The Sniper, and it's absolutely crazy. A guy who is able to, basically kill anything with any type weapon. He can ricochet shots, and it talks about, how Henry Lime has been able to just put things in the path of the bullet to save himself, not, because the shot was off or anything like that. So yeah. Did we want to get into the 0 issue? I actually didn't put any notes.
I didn't make any notes on
it
or anything, but
okay. Yeah. All right. I didn't either. So
I think the biggest thing that I saw in reading it is there was a story of a sleeper agent called Bear that was enacted and then had died after killing his wife or something like that, and his last words were Lime, indicating that Henry Lime, he knew something about him, I guess. So that was the only one that really stood out to me out of them. And then them just kind of explaining the flux houses.
And I need to read that again because I had forgotten that was in there. Which one was that in?
That was just at like the very tip top of issue 0.
Okay, so I've been in like -1 then, maybe.
So I don't know if it's. No, actually, it's on, as far as on issue 0, it's the inside cover story.
Oh,
So
that explains why I haven't read it then. That explains why I've never seen that before. Okay, good. I don't feel so bad now. It's like, man, you said that. It's like, I don't remember Flux House anywhere in these stories. So that explains why I haven't seen it. So, okay. All right, good. So now I have a reason to go out and get these individual issues.
That's right. Well, so you're not familiar with what a Flux House is?
No, because I don't know it by description.
So a Flux House is a safe house that mind management uses, but they always fluctuate. For it may be a restaurant, but it has food that you don't like, so you never go in it, or it may be this business, but it's under renovation, so you never go in it. So it's a safe house for whoever they're trying to protect, but it constantly is changing what it is based on whoever's trying to get into the building.
So, okay. So in a way, it's kind of like in the Watchmen TV series where she's opening up her, was it a restaurant that she was in the process of opening up?
Yeah.
And it never, ever opened. That was her. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
But a little bit more
dynamic,
a little bit more dynamic than what she had in that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, this is, this series, one of the most beautifully crafted series I've ever seen. There is so much detail in everything. Inside covers, backup stories on each page. You've got the whole mind management field guide. There is just so much involved in this story. It is just amazing.
Right.
You got the backup issues or the backup stories, and like I said, I haven't even read now. I read the inside front cover story for the first issue. I didn't even know that was there until today. So
that answers my question. I definitely shouldn't buy the collected editions of the rest of them, because I only have the first 6 issues and 0, but I got a lot of enjoyment out of the inside cover stuff. So I definitely will go single issue with them.
Yeah, I picked up a few issues of Mind Management for, like, I found them in a dollar bin.
Oh, okay.
I haven't even looked at them yet. It's like, well, I'm going to read them probably just on Comixology, but now it's like, I need to go see if that continues in those later issues, because I hadn't even noticed that. So
yeah.
I don't know. Anything else you want to say about this story?
No, I'm ready to read more. I think I'm gonna go ahead and read ahead on this one.
Well, I don't know that we necessarily have to do the whole thing for the podcast. I think the point is just to maybe try to get some people interested into it.
I am, for sure.
Yeah. So I've already read. I want to say I've read the first 2 omnibus. Now, I've only read the second omnibus one time.
Okay.
But yeah, I need to definitely read through this, and I've got, Flux House. I added the issue with the card on the FOC the other day.
Nice. Good.
So that actually came out, so I'm not going to miss that card. Got both of those issues pre-ordered.
Good.
So yeah. So and if you get big into the whole mind management thing, there are a couple things you can look for. There's actually a mind management board game.
Okay.
Where you play as like Maru and Henry Lime, and you're trying to stop a recruiter from bringing in new recruits to mind management. So you're trying to capture the recruiter before he recruits too many new agents. And it's like one player plays as the recruiter, and then 1 to 4 players play as the agents. And it also has an option for people who don't have friends like me, that you can play the game by yourself.
Oh, nice.
You can play it against, there's an app that will play the recruiter for you, so that you can then play the game, and it will decide where the recruiter's moving, and you can still track him down.
That's cool.
And then there's a deck of cards that are coming out for mind management, that apparently some of the cards in the deck actually can impact the game.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, of course, Matt Kindt has his own website, and he's like, since this is a creator-owned property, he'll put like T-shirts for sale, and he'll occasionally get special editions of Mind Management. So, you should. I'm trying to remember what his website is. Let me look that up real fast. But if you are really get into it, actually, there's one called just mattkintsshop.com.
Oh.
But he's got like the mind management collections. A lot of times when you buy stuff from his website, he will put little sketches. He'll sign it and put little sketches
That's cool.
into the books as well. So I guess because I think he still charges like full price or maybe even a little bit of a premium, but you get for what you're paying there. So
gotcha.
Yeah, so it is he's got some really, really good stuff. So cool. You want to grade it? What do you want to grade this at?
It's such a good story. I don't know why I'm not giving it higher. I guess because I'm just apprehensive about going super high, but I'm gonna go at 9.4 near mint on this story.
I'm gonna go 9.2, just because again that's in that range where it's like I really, unfortunately for me, like normally when I would see something like this, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go out and give me a graded copy of issue number 1. But because there's been announcements for this having a TV series and things like that, those graded copies of issue number 1 are getting a little ridiculous in price. So I probably just need to go out and buy like the omnibus to have on the shelf, and show it. So yeah, so I'm basically right there. I'm at a 9.2.
This says I don't know for sure because I haven't picked up the omnibuses, but do you have the first omnibus or just the?
I just read it digital.
Okay.
Yeah.
The omnibus evidently collects the reprinted content that was not in the hardcovers, or in the graphic novels. It says reprints what was in the individual issues that wasn't in the collected graphic novel. So I'm guessing that's the inside cover stuff.
Inside covers. Okay, cool.
So the omnibus might be the way to go for the collected editions.
Yeah, the least expensive Mind Management number 198 on eBay right now is $316.
Ooh.
So,
all right.
So yeah, I'm going to. Oh wait a minute, hold on. There might be one cheaper. That was just the lowest price first. So yeah, it's probably more than I want to spend on one right now. But
still looking at 3 figures.
Yeah. If it were 100 a quarter, yeah, I'd be dropping it right now. But and if I would have done that 6 months ago, like I should have, it would have been.
It would have been there.
It would have been that. Yeah, but I waited too long. Thinking about it, and best I've paid the price, So let me see if there's not any sales history on a 9.8, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately I can't know what I missed out on.
That might not be a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. So all right, well, we got time for a CLZ shake.
We'll shake it up, yeah.
Shake it. All right. So I have to get my app open here. If you've already got it open, you can go ahead.
I'm locked and loaded, yep.
All right, well, you go right ahead.
All right. What's it say?
I can't read it because of the light.
Star Wars Darth Vader Volume 1. All right, so this was the first Marvel Darth Vader series, issue 3, I guess. The written by Kieran Gillen, art by Salvador Larroca, and I like this story. This is a really good story. This may be, I don't think this is the first issue with Dr. Aphra, but
was it issue 3?
The first, yeah.
That's her first appearance.
Is the first appearance? Okay.
You've got that book?
Yes, I do.
Oh, good for you. So, well, she's on the cover.
Yeah, she's on. I was like, I don't know if this is her first appearance, but it's definitely her first cover.
Yes, no, that's issue 3. That's her first appearance. It's also the first appearance of
the evil C-3PO.
No, you're right. It's the evil C-3PO. Yes.
Okay.
Because the Wookiee shows up in
Chrysanthemum.
A different issue, but yeah.
I have that also though, whatever that is.
Well, if you're going to sell that one, you missed your opportunity. So
yeah, no, that's the problem. I don't ever pay attention to what I have as far as a resale market. I probably have a couple of good ones in there, but I really enjoyed that. One of these days I'll continue on past the first volume of the Marvel Darth Vader because I like some Darth Vader, and that Obi-Wan show is proving that Darth Vader can be a pretty good bad guy when given the chance.
I like the fact that Obi-Wan is redeeming the prequels.
Yes, absolutely.
It's making the prequels not so terrible.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, I was like, we've probably seen more Vader in this series than we did through the three original movies.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of Vader when you really put a screen time in, and
well, with the Return of the Jedi had a lot of Vader.
There's a lot of Jedi. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you look at just Star Wars and New Hope
and Empire,
there's not a whole lot of Vader there, but there's a fair amount. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely increased by a percentage, the
Yes.
amount of that we have. So
It's like they listened and they were like, "Oh, people liked how violent he was in Rogue One. We can give you more of that."
exactly, yeah. Don't think, well, and not to get off on a tangent, but they're so inconsistent with the Jedi's powers. Even, it's like, okay, so he has all these powers, he's throwing people around, but then at the end of one episode, he can't get around a fire. It's like, really? I don't get that. So, all right, let's see if I can get something different here. Well, guess what?
You did.
Silver Surfer. Somebody been getting a lot of Silver Surfer. This is issue number 79. I was still buying this because it still had Ron Lim pencils, and I thought it had a Ron Lim cover. It lists Terry Austin as the cover artist, but I think he was just inking over Ron Lim, because that is absolutely a Ron Lim cover there. So I was buying this as long as Ron Lim was the artist. Looks like we had Dr. Minerva in this, who was like an evil Kree agent. Oh, I lost it. So yeah, I don't remember anything about the story though. But it is. I'm trying to think how many. I feel like I'm only missing like 1 or 2 issues from that entire series. Oh, I want that by series. There we go. Let me find, because I have almost that entire series, and I actually just picked up one that I was missing just the other day. I am missing issue 125 and 128 of Silver Surfer Volume 3 out of 147 issues. So
dang, you heard it here, guys. If you have those issues, reach out to Scott.
125, Silver Surfer Volume 3, 125, and issue 128. All right, so I think that's going to wrap up another episode. Even without Mike Atchison here, we still found a way to talk for over an hour and
that's right,
30 minutes. So hey, we got more episodes though that's we're prepped for. What we got coming up?
Coming up, we're going to do an episode on Rorschach, issues 7 through 12. Going to finish up that series. And then we are going to give our first impressions on the Miss Marvel TV show that's currently airing on Disney Plus. And then we are going to be covering a little bit of what we've been reading.
And that could take a little while. So
yes.
Yeah, depending on how much we've been reading.
That's right.
All right. So Shaad, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, where would they find you at?
You can find me on Facebook at Shaad Schubert. That's SHAAD. SCHUBERT, and of course check out my band, The Can't Get Rights. We've got some shows coming up. I've got some shows coming up by myself, so check us out, see what's going on.
All right, and then I'm Scott Reed. You can find me at burgcomics.com, BURGcomics.com. And hey, just as a reminder, July 23rd, we have Catherine Sutherland and Nakia Burris going to be at Muddy Monster Comics, July 23rd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You're going to be there, Shaad? You're going to do a little music? Yep. I assume probably around 1 or 2 o'clock you'll be playing, or are you going to do it?
Yep.
I would assume.
Maybe even earlier. I don't know. I've actually got another show at 3 o'clock at a winery. So
okay. That's right.
So I'll be all over the place that day. But yeah, we'll probably music, entertainment type stuff, maybe start around noon or 1, somewhere around there.
All right. So yeah, be sure and Muddy Monster Comics, 1422 Walnut Street in Murfreesboro, Illinois. Stores open Tuesday to Saturday, 10 to 5. And if you drop in, ask Mike about his trip to the model show in Louisville, Kentucky. He will gladly show you all kinds of cool stuff that he picked up and some great stories that he has to share. So, all right, that'll do it for another episode of the Campus Comics Cast, and we'll be back soon.
Okay. Oh, spam phone call. Let me answer the spam phone call. Get it. Oh. The guy who used to have my phone, his name was Steven. So I constantly get phone messages, Steven. It's like, I'm like, how many of them I blocked? They keep calling. Yes. There's a woman named Kim that I always get calls for, but I've had my number for 20 years now. So She just wrote down my phone number on a bunch of paperwork. Yeah, so I've had mine for a long time, but ever since I've had it, I've been getting this. Oh, crud, there's another Love and Thunder teaser? Okay, how long is it? Oh, it's just 23 seconds. Oh, that's weird. Oh. It looks like they dropped an Umbrella Academy sneak peek for season 3 today. Okay, I had not seen that either. The teaser is just the scene where the Mjolnir shows back up. They added a few seconds before that. Oh, okay. So I'm not gonna. Nothing. Yeah, well, it's the scene where then Natalie Portman shows up. So the first half of the trailer is Chris Hemsworth being an idiot, and the last half of the trailer is Natalie Portman being awesome.